Chapter 1451, Year Gu Price War. Chapter 1451, Year Gu Price War. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. A few days later. Central Continent, Spirit Affinity House. Zhao Lian Yun spread her divine sense, inspecting her immortal aperture. Lian Yun blessed land already looked different from before. A flower field was planted with a large amount of bright-eye flowers. This was the food of remembrance immortal Gu, it had to be planted. Besides this, there was also a small grassland where clear chance grass was planted. Stalks of the grass was small and pointy, and were light green. Swallows were flying above this grassland. They were labor swallows, extremely hard-working and nimble birds. Their wings had 3 colors, in black, white and red. Zhao Lian Yun had specially brought in a batch of them to kill any insects on the clear chance grass. When clear chance grass grew, it would produce a kind of pest that would corrode the grass leaves, greatly reducing the profits. I have already spent most of my immortal essence stones. Zhao Lian Yun sighed as she looked at the scene in front of her. At the beginning, she had felt the number of immortal essence stones to be extremely huge, but when she started using it, she discovered that it was not much at all. Because she was not only nurturing 2 resources, she also had to create 2 complete ecological systems. Not only the seeds of bright-eye flowers and clear chance grass, she had to spend on soil, water, climate construction and so on as well. Bright-eye flowers can only satisfy the food requirement of remembrance immortal Gu after a year in immortal aperture time. After 2 years, the clear chance grass and bright-eye flower transactions could give me several hundreds of immortal essence stones. After 3 years, I can repay Li Junying's loan. This progress and profit can only be achieved under the most ideal situation. And I have yet to calculate my other cultivation expenses. Zhao Lian Yun fully sensed that Gu immortal cultivation was not easy. She was only cultivating 2 resources, and both grew separately and did not disturb each other. At the same time, the difficulty of nurturing plants was much less than raising beast groups or variant humans. Moreover, Zhao Lian Yun had a high-grade blessed land which had plenty of space path and time path resources. Most importantly, she was protected by divine concealment, and was exempted from calamities and tribulations. She did not need to worry about this huge issue. The number of labor swallows is somewhat small, they cannot look after the whole grassland, I should buy some more. Zhao Lian Yun connected to treasure yellow heaven and sent her divine sense. Over these days, she realized the convenience of treasured yellow heaven. Guts Gu. Zhao Lian Yun quickly discovered someone selling Guts Gu. She knew Guts Gu was produced by Fang Yuan alone, but because its supply did not match demand, it had all along been sold in the black market of treasure yellow heaven, that is, someone would purchase a large amount of Guts Gu then sell them at a higher price. So the one selling this Guts Gu was not necessarily Fang Yuan. Moreover, the wills and identities of Gu immortals could be casually changed. Treasure yellow heaven gave safety and full freedom, so even heavenly court could only watch as Fang Yuan sold Guts Gu. Even if I can sell bright-eye flowers and clear chance grass after a few years, there will be other competitors as well. My products will be influenced by the market. Their prices also won't be able to compare to Guts Gu. Fang Yuan was Zhao Lian Yun's enemy, so she had been paying attention to the Guts Gu trade. But the more attention she paid, the more she realized Fang Yuan's strength, which inevitably caused her to feel depressed. According to my current accumulation speed, I simply won't be able to catch up with Fang Yuan. Instead I will continue to be left in the dust by him. Damn it! Zhao Lian Yun gritted her teeth. Right at this time, for some reason, there was a huge uproar ahead. Large amounts of Gu immortal wills, which were originally scattered throughout treasure yellow heaven, were gathering in that direction. Zhao Lian Yun's heart jolted. Could it be a large transaction? Li Junying said large transactions that can cause such an uproar are rare in treasure yellow heaven. Previously, it was when someone sold large amounts of year beasts. I did not expect my luck to be so good, to encounter one not long after becoming an immortal. Zhao Lian Yun naturally did not want to give up on this chance to broaden her horizons. She also sent her divine sense to experience this event. Soon, she arrived at the scene. A Gu immortal will, which had an enormous physique looking like a fatty, was sitting cross-legged in air. Surrounding him were Year Gu. A vast number of Year Gu. So many Year Gu. It looks like there are over 100,000. Zhao Lian Yun got a shock. This was the first time she had seen so many Year Gu piled up together. The huge quantity had quite a visual impact. Sisterly Juning was right, mortal Gu is only a matter of quantity to Gu immortals. Zhao Lian Yun sighed inwardly. What price are you selling these Year Gu for? A Gu immortals will inquire about the price. That fat will replied with a smile, quoting a fair price, which immediately led to a discussion between the Gu immortals. If there are no issues with these Year Gu, I definitely want to purchase some. This is time path mortal Gu. They have a wide range of uses and can be used in refinement path or other aspects. The price is also fair, maybe I should buy a bit more. Even if I don't use it for myself, I can resell it later. I don't have to worry about not being able to sell it. Who is this seller? Selling Year Gu at this time is an extremely good decision. According to the usual routine, it is not yet the time for the biggest sellers of Year Gu to bring out their products. Gu immortals discussed with each other. All kinds of divine senses and wills conversed together without maintaining secrecy, which allowed Zhao Lian Yun to learn of a lot of things. She listened attentively and soon found this Year Gu seller might be a newcomer in Treasure Yellow Heaven. Although the current time of sales was slightly early, it would still be hard for him to avoid colliding with the traditional sellers. It was still okay if this seller was only selling this one time, but if he wanted to run this business for a long time and squeeze into Treasure Yellow Heaven's market, it would definitely lead to bloodshed. Zhao Lian Yun's eyes brightened at this thought. If it was the latter situation, then this would no doubt be an event to pay attention to and learn from. I will also be selling my resources in the future and will have to make my way into Treasure Yellow Heaven's market. My resources are not unique, so I will definitely have to go through this obstacle. There are only a few monopolistic businesses in the whole Gu immortal world, not everyone can have luck like Fang Yuan. I need to observe this properly, especially this Year Gu trade. I might learn a lot of things. Zhao Lian Yun instructed herself. The scene was bustling, many Gu immortals started purchasing Year Gu. Time path Gu worms had a wide range of usage, so they always had a high demand in the market. After each transaction was completed, the profits quickly accumulated to an extent which caused some of the Gu immortals to become red with envy. Just by a rough estimation, this seller has at least profited 50,000 immortal essence stones in this short period of time. Zhao Lian Yun was inwardly shocked. But the real shocking thing came later. This seller was selling continuously, while also continuously replenishing the products. Many Year Gu were sold, but in the surroundings of the fat will, the quantity of Year Gu did not decrease and was instead increasing. Oh heavens, how many Year Gu does this man have? My goodness, this is a huge transaction. This person is here for blood. The main sellers of Year Gu have always been Xie Baoshu, Rong Xian and Wang Mingyu. If this is not handled well, it will definitely lead to a price war. Zhao Lianyun felt increasing anticipation as she listened to the discussions. This mysterious seller was strongly putting his foot in the market. The three main sellers definitely would not take this lying down. A price war concerning Year Gu was going to start. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1452, 3 Sellers. Chapter 1452, 3 Sellers. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Eastern Sea. Clear Sea Area. A jade pavilion stood by itself in the depths of the sea, emitting aura of a rank 6 immortal Gu house. Inside the jade pavilion, Gu immortal Xie Baoshu was hosting his close friend, Yu Xianxia. Looking at the large patches of vicissitude trees outside the jade pavilion, Xianxia said with a moved tone, it is time to harvest year Gu once again. The growth of these vicissitude trees is much more vigorous than the previous year. Looks like your method of growing these resources has made another breakthrough. Xiao Shu was handsome and had a warm nature. He rubbed his nose, smiling, you don't need to flatter me. Xianxia laughed, I am just worrying about you, don't you know someone is already selling year Gu in Treasure Yellow Heaven? Xiao Shu was silent as he took out a mortal year Gu and handed it to Xianxia. Xianxia received it and took a glance. Good, this rank 5 year Gu's quality is pretty good. It is glossy and healthy, it is quite appealing. Xiao Shu slightly shook his head, this year Gu was not raised by me, it is from that seller. I see. Xianxia was slightly surprised, before quickly accepting this fact. He knew his friend very well. Xiao Shu was a well-known lone cultivator in Eastern Sea's Gu immortal world. He had unique insights on growing vicissitude trees. Vicissitude trees were an immortal material, but their usage was very narrow. Despite being an immortal material, because they had many kinds of Dao marks, they were very impure. So few Gu immortals paid attention to this tree. But Xiao Shu found new ways of using them. He planted this tree on a large scale, and using an ingenious method, he used vicissitude trees to raise and attract wild year Gu. Now, he was one of the 3 giants of the year Gu market. He only put a small portion of these year Gu in Treasure Yellow Heaven, the larger portion was sold to various super forces of Eastern Sea. Even so, Xiao Shu would not easily give up Treasure Yellow Heaven's market. Because this was the whole world's market, and from a certain aspect, Treasure Yellow Heaven could be said to be much more significant than those Eastern Sea super forces. Now that someone was suddenly entering the year Gu market, making huge transactions, how could Xiao Shu just watch from the sidelines? Although it was still not time for him to sell year Gu, he had always been paying attention to the situation of the year Gu market. I have examined this year Gu, it is indeed a high-grade item. This time, the opponent is not a simple one. Xiao Shu sighed. Xianxia nodded, with such a huge amount, some region's super force might be involved in this, it is very difficult for an individual to take out so many of them. Didn't you also climb up by accumulating your strength step by step? Xiao Shu smiled, oh why are you encouraging me in a roundabout way? Among the 3 sellers, only I am a lone cultivator. Because of this, I could only move step by step, facing setbacks along the way and getting past them to create a solid foundation. What difficulties have I not encountered? This time will also not be an exception. Moreover. Xianxia finished his words, moreover, you 3 have already reached an agreement. Every business has its own hidden rules, this newcomer might have come aggressively, but he has broken the hidden rules, he will probably be suppressed and forced out by you 3, right? I really cannot hide anything from you, you rat who specializes in stealing oil. Xiao Shu jokingly scolded while pointing at Xianxia's nose. Northern Plains, Langya blessed land. Cloud City, inside a secret room, Fang Yuan had been sitting cross-legged without moving for several days. These last days, he had been activating rank 8 time path immortal Gu years flow like water. He had obtained this immortal Gu from He Fan's true inheritance, even rank 6 Gu immortals could activate it, but the effect would be limited. Now, Fang Yuan was continuously pouring his rank 7 red date immortal essence into years flow like water, constantly producing mortal year Gu. And these year Gu were then moved to Treasure Yellow Heaven's market. He let his will stabilize the situation and carry out year Gu transactions with other Gu immortals. Indeed, he was the newcomer who had been selling large amounts of year Gu. He was extremely aggressive, not only creating an uproar in Treasure Yellow Heaven, he even made Xiao Shu and the others feel apprehension. Fang Yuan had borrowed over 1,730,000 immortal essence stones, he turned them into red date immortal essence, which he made full use of in the year Gu business. Rank 8 years flow like water was too amazing, it not only produced a lot of mortal Gu, their quality was also good. The market response had been extremely good these few days. After buying some, many Gu immortals felt that the goods were pretty good, they would find Fang Yuan to purchase another batch. Right at this time, Fang Yuan's activation of years flow like water paused for a moment. He had all along been maintaining his connection to Treasure Yellow Heaven, and had just received a message from his will, which he had placed in Treasure Yellow Heaven, that there was a super force which wanted to purchase Fang Yuan's goods in bulk quantity, but was afraid Fang Yuan would not be able to supply them, so they wanted to discuss with his main body. If it was possible, they could establish long-term cooperation. This news could be true but could also be false. There is a higher chance that this message is sent by those traditional Gu sellers using a disguised identity. Fang Yuan sneered, completely disregarding this message. Long-term cooperation. Fang Yuan was not interested. He wanted to wage war this time. Central Continent. Rong Xian was silent. The seller is actually not interested in my proposal. Rong Xian was quite surprised. He had disguised as a huge buyer to try to communicate with Fang Yuan personally and glean his background. But Fang Yuan actually ignored him. How can this be? Even if he is a representative of a super force, they would also hope that their Gu would have much larger buyers. Unless, he does not have many Gu left. Rong Xian was a member of the 10 great ancient sects, and as a righteous path member, he naturally understood the thoughts of righteous path Gu immortals and super forces. He pondered and felt this guess was very likely. It must be because of this that this mysterious seller is selling Gu this early. It is to avoid us 3 sellers. He refused even my proposal. He probably really does not have much stock left. Actually, the amount of Gu he has sold is only 1/10 of what I have in stock. Hee hee. Rong Xian chuckled when he thought of this. This is a good method to gain attention. He commented in his head on Fang Yuan's action. Unfortunately, what use is it if you don't have enough strength? Southern border. Dragon Return Valley. The rumbling of a waterfall echoed in the valley. Mist permeated and the vegetation thrived. Wang Mingyu, an external supreme elder of the righteous path super force Yao clan, was standing on a giant boulder, gazing at the waterfall. This waterfall was not ordinary, it was a tributary of the river of time. Gu has 3 great sellers. Eastern Sea's Xie Bao Shu uses vicissitude trees to nurture Gu. Central Continent's Rong Xian uses refinement path methods to periodically refine countless Gu. But only I have a grasp over a tributary of the river of time, I can capture natural wild Gu. Wang Mingyu inwardly compared herself to them. This tributary of the river of time was rather special, it was a tributary that had forked from the middle of the river of time. The river of time had many special river segments. For instance, the Sword Blade River segment, it was a special river segment that was personally set up by Red Lotus Demon Venerable using the past Qi Yuan Sword Aura and Dao Jiu Lang's Blade Aura to protect one of his Stone Lotus Islands. The Yi River segment was filled with countless wild Gu. Wang Mingyu had discovered this tributary back when she had been a lone immortal, and had secretly managed it. But several years later, Southern Border's righteous path forces discovered it and were naturally covetous. After a secret exchange, Yao Clan 1, and Yao Clan Gu immortal Yao Tianze married Wang Mingyu. With this reason, Yao Clan openly took this Dragon Return Valley as their territory. This year's harvests are pretty good, the amount of Gu captured is actually 30% higher than normal. The other 2 are not making a move, then I shall start first. If I continue letting that newcomer sell his Gu, it will probably not be easy for me to sell all these wild Gu. Wang Mingyu put her thoughts into action, and began selling her Gu in Treasure Yellow Heaven. Her move immediately caused an uproar in Treasure Yellow Heaven. One of the 3 main sellers of Gu, Wang Mingyu, has made a move. If that mysterious seller is allowed to continue selling Gu, the sellers after him definitely won't have an easy time selling Gu. This will be quite a show. Right. That mysterious seller is selling so many Gu, the 3 main sellers definitely have a hard time being patient. Now that Wang Mingyu has made a move, the other 2 won't stand still. Let's wait and see, there might even be a price war, US buyers can pick up some benefits. Many Gu immortals secretly communicated. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1453, Price War. Chapter 1453, Price War. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Wang Mingyu took out her stock. Only Fang Yuan alone had been supplying Ye Gu in a large amount in Treasure Yellow Heaven over these last days. Now with one more competitor, it immediately caused a stir. Women are women after all, not even having this bit of patience. Central Continent's Rong Xian scoffed when he obtained this news. With this, many Gu immortals will probably choose to watch. He had plentiful experience in selling Ye Gu, and could immediately guess the changes in the market. Sure enough, the fervor of buying Ye Gu in Treasure Yellow Heaven suddenly fell. Wang Mingyu became Fang Yuan's competitor, which all of a sudden caused the supply of Ye Gu to be greater than demand. Other Gu immortals were now keeping patient, waiting to see a good show. A storm was brewing in Treasure Yellow Heaven. In previous years, the sale of Ye Gu had always been a hot business. This year, with Ye Gu being sold ahead of time, the situation had now become desolate, with almost no one showing any interest. Wang Mingyu was helpless about this. There was no other way. She had a huge stock of Ye Gu. If she did not start now and waited for the other two sellers to start selling, there would be a much smaller market for her goods. Wang Mingyu is actually selling ahead of time. Different from Rong Xian's passive stance, Xia Baoshu was hesitating. Xia Baoshu understood Wang Mingyu. This person was a veteran seller with plenty of experience. How could she not see the disadvantage of selling early? Most probably, she also has a lot of Ye Gu on her. Xia Baoshu did not show anything on the surface, but was inwardly getting worried. A day later, he finally decided to take action, putting Ye Gu for sale in Treasure Yellow Heaven. Xia Baoshu has also made a move. Two of the three main sellers are already selling their goods ahead of time. Of course. This year is different from the past. There is now a fourth gladiator in the arena. Within Treasure Yellow Heaven, the Gu immortals discussed. Damn it. These two. When Rong Xian obtained news of this, he could only follow while gritting his teeth. The situation was already different from before. Previously, Fang Yuan was selling by himself. Rong Xian could endure this and remained unmoved. When Wang Mingyu joined, Rong Xian only felt slightly tensed, but with Xia Baoshu also joining in, the pressure on Rong Xian had increased. Among the four sellers, if he alone did not take action, then the one who suffered the most would no doubt be him. It was just that he had his own difficulties. His Ye Gu were the results of refinement. Because there was not a set time like past years, his stock had not been accumulated enough. So he had the least amount of stock among the four sellers. Forced by the situation, Rong Xian could only grit his teeth and put his Ye Gu for sale in Treasure Yellow Heaven. I have the least amount of stock, I cannot act forcefully. Rong Xian already had a hunch. What he needed now was time to refine much more Ye Gu. Thinking of this, he contacted Xia Baoshu and Wang Mingyu. These three knew each other for many years, competing and communicating with each other about Ye Gu business, and naturally had each other's information path Gu worms. Although there is a newcomer, I think us three should still act according to the old agreement, isn't that so? Rong Xian reminded the two. Xia Baoshu and Wang Mingyu naturally agreed. They had already broken some terms of the old agreement by selling Ye Gu early. But since this was a special situation, it could be understood. But if they broke other terms, especially the one about price of Ye Gu, that would be breaking the rules. With more sellers, there would naturally be a price war. This was a powerful method of a price war. But if it was used too strongly, it would hurt themselves. Xia Baoshu, Wang Mingyu, and Rong Xian had already competed with each other countless times, but they never changed the agreed price. Besides not being able to do anything to the other party, the main reason was to protect their benefits. This created a problem. If Fang Yuan's side suddenly dropped the price, what should they do? These three could obey the agreement, but Fang Yuan was a newcomer. Even if Rong Xian persuaded him, he might not listen. But Rong Xian, Xia Baoshu, and Wang Mingyu were seemingly not worried about this. With four sellers supplying Ye Gu, Fang Yuan immediately felt his sales becoming stagnant. I am a newcomer after all. Although my goods are of top quality, how could my status compare to those three main sellers in other Gu immortals' hearts? Wang Mingyu, Xia Baoshu, and Rong Xian were in this business for many years already. They had good reputation among the public. Fang Yuan could absolutely not compare in this aspect. This was where Fang Yuan was disadvantaged in. But Fang Yuan had his methods to resolve it. Soon, at almost the same time, Rong Xian, Xia Baoshu, and Wang Mingyu obtained a significant news. That mysterious seller was beginning to drop the price of Ye Gu. He went for this after all. Humph, I still thought he had some other methods. They were not anxious, even feeling somewhat disdainful. They had long grown out of this action of decreasing the price, and had even suffered a lot because of this. In a price war, taking the initiative to reduce the price was a double-edged sword. It would hurt others and hurt oneself as well. But as far as buyers were concerned, Fang Yuan reducing the price was no doubt good news. Weren't they waiting for this kind of opportunity? They were like hungry sharks that immediately swarmed in. Fang Yuan's Ye Gu began to sell in large amounts, forming a stark contrast with Xia Baoshu, Wang Mingyu, and Rong Xian's. The other side seems to be an experienced veteran. This price reduction is quite to the standard. It gives a feeling of being a lot, but actually is not that much. Wang Mingyu had been observing the situation. But so what? The Ye Gu market of the whole of Treasure Yellow Heaven is extremely big. How can you supply to the buyers of the whole 5 regions by yourself? In the end, the one to suffer will be yourself. We can clearly sell at a higher price. The 3 main sellers maintained their price, but several days later, they could not sit still. What's going on? This guy has so many Ye Gu. It almost seems to be endless. How could he accumulate so many Ye Gu? Something's wrong here. The moods of the 3 main sellers had become slightly heavy. But should they follow and reduce their price? They were hesitant. In the end, they had different mentalities. Fang Yuan was a newcomer, however much he earned would be fresh income. But these 3 main sellers were old veterans, and had a rough estimation of their profits every year. So if they were to reduce the price, their expected profits would decrease. Hesitation was natural. Several days later, Fang Yuan's sales were still going on fiercely. The 3 main sellers saw the situation was going in an unfavorable direction. Wang Mingyu was the first to discuss with the other 2 if they should also reduce the price. Xia Baoshu had a cold expression. Looking at this situation, this guy probably has enough stock. If we don't reduce our price, we simply won't be able to sell. That's right. Wang Mingyu added, this person's methods are not simple. He reduced the price just enough to suppress us 3. Rong Xian snorted, whether we lose profits or not, it will have to be seen after selling all the Ye Gu. If we decrease the price too much, even if we sell a lot, we will still lose massive profits overall. What is the point of that? He did not approve of this method, still wanting to wait patiently for a while more. There was no other way. He did not have much stock. If he reduced the price, there would be a lot of buyers and his goods would be all sold. When others learned he was out of stock so early, his image and reputation would be damaged. But he could not do anything about it. Since the other 2 wanted to reduce the price, Rong Xian could only follow them. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1454, Commotion in Treasure Yellow Heaven. Chapter 1454, Commotion in Treasure Yellow Heaven. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. The price fell. As Fang Yuan's price fell, Xia Baoshu and the other sellers had to lower their prices too after a few days. However, they did not lower their prices much. They were in sync, at the same price as Fang Yuan. I am a newcomer in the Ye Gu business. My identity is mysterious and unknown. Compared to me, Xia Baoshu, Rong Xian, and Wang Mingyu are reputed figures with many years of experience. They are deeply trusted. Thus, as long as they lower their prices to match me, those who want to buy Year Gu will approach them instead. Fang Yuan knew deeply about the plan of Xia Baoshu and the rest. This was the advantage that Xia Baoshu and the rest had over Fang Yuan. Their years of being in the business had deeply affected the buyers. It was not a joke. However, so what if they do this? Fang Yuan smiled lightly. On the day Xia Baoshu and the rest lowered their prices, Fang Yuan lowered his price again. The Gu immortals in Treasure Yellow Heaven were focusing on this huge price war. The moment Fang Yuan lowered his price, news spread rapidly. Before long, many of the forces and Gu immortals concerned about this matter learned about it. After hearing that Xia Baoshu lowered his price, I wanted to buy from him. After all, I do that every year. True, except I prefer Rong Xian's goods. But that fourth seller lowered his price again. He is truly rich. He wants to challenge the three main sellers. The buyers were overjoyed and relaxed. In this price war, they were the ones who benefited the most. Staying on the fence and watching this show, it was a very joyful thing to see. At the same price level, Fang Yuan was not their match, but the moment he lowered his prices, his advantage became huge. After all, Fang Yuan's goods were very high quality and cheap. Would those Gu immortals be so stupid as to buy expensive goods instead? Thus for the following day, Fang Yuan's business was booming. The other three sellers had no business. After hearing this, Central Continent Gu immortal Rong Xian laughed, coldly of course. He spoke with the other two. Very interesting, this person really wants to challenge us to a price war. Wang Mingyu smiled. All these years, nobody could match our status. This time, I want to see how strong this person is. Xia Baoshu added, then let us lower our prices too. There was nothing to say. Since Fang Yuan reduced his prices, the other three sellers followed. Their price was the same as Fang Yuan's Year Gu. They had hesitated earlier already. Since Fang Yuan was initiating the war, the three Gu immortals were confident in their finances. They followed relentlessly. During the second price reduction, there was a small commotion in Treasure Yellow Heaven. The rest of the Gu immortals started to get excited, because they knew that this was only the second price fall. The war had just started. There was going to be a third and fourth time later. But it will depend on the mysterious fourth seller on when he reduces his price again. Any price reduction is a fall in profits for the seller himself. Earlier, the fourth seller initiated the war. While the three main sellers have no fear in joining in, they had full confidence in themselves. That's right, the third reduction might be coming soon, but we do not know when. The Gu immortals conversed among each other. Normally speaking, it was very common to reduce prices in such situations, but there was an interval between each reduction. Because the seller needs to observe the market and think about the decisions to make. Reducing the price was a double-edged sword. It could undercut the competitors, but it would harm one's own benefits. If the sellers saw good prospects in the market, they might not reduce prices anymore. They needed to defend their own benefits. If they reduced the prices further, even if they increased the quantity sold, they would not earn much profits. After all, competitors would reduce prices too. If the sellers refused to give in and constantly reduce prices, competing without restraint, they would collapse together. There were basically no Gu immortals who would do this and ruin the market for everyone. The sellers were not stupid. They wanted to earn profits. If they only cared about competition and disregarded profits, why would they sell anything? Sellers were smart, but buyers were intelligent too. After the three sellers reduced their price to Fang Yuan's level, they stopped buying. The sales of Year Gu became very pathetic. Because the most crucial person in this price war was Fang Yuan. And the moment Fang Yuan reduced his price, they would buy a bit. Why? Firstly, in terms of prices, Fang Yuan selling at a lower price would be more beneficial to them. Of course, they were encouraging him to continue competing with the three sellers and reduce prices. Eventually, Fang Yuan will be unable to endure it, because the one to lower the prices will suffer losses. But after the prices reach the lower limit, the buyers would benefit the most. If the four sellers end up at the same price, they would not buy the Year Gu from Fang Yuan. A price war made good use of such psychological tactics. After the second price reduction, the four sellers reached the same price again. Fang Yuan's actions were out of expectations. He was paying close attention to Treasure Yellow Heaven. The moment the three sellers reduced their price, he reacted and reduced his own price again. Many people were astonished. Fang Yuan's reaction was simply too fast. And from his speed, many people could sense his firm and determined attitude. He is well prepared for this. Rong Xian sighed. He felt a little pressure as he had the least stock among the sellers. Towards the later stages of this price war, when the commodity prices are low, sales would boom. By then, if he had low stock, it would be very awkward. There are buyers but no goods. Not only would he be out of the game, buyers would think of him as unreliable, his reputation accumulated over the years would be ruined. Rong Xian did not want that to happen. He asked others to refine Gu at full speed to replenish his stock while thinking if he should reduce prices again. More specifically, if he should reduce the price until his competitors could not and dare not try to follow him, because it would result in major losses. But he would not lower prices by too much. Buyers must continue to think that they could continue watching without doing anything. In that case, as long as he had enough time, Rong Xian could replenish his stocks and win at the final moments of the price war. However, in this case, if I reduce prices drastically, the other two parties will know that I do not have much stock now. Rong Xian was very hesitant. Since he could think of this to alleviate his crisis, the other two parties were also experienced sellers. They could naturally deduce his current situation. Deductions were not hard to do. People with experience were sensitive to such changes. That way, if Rong Xian did this, he would be exposing his weakness. He would likely get kicked out of the game earlier. Thus, not only was he hesitant, he had a headache. A huge headache. Because he needed to think about the buyer and seller mentality while also paying attention to his competitors. Right when he was hesitant and indecisive, Xia Baoshu and Wang Mingyu lowered their prices again. The price fell like earlier, maintained at the same level as Fang Yuan. They had sufficient stock, especially Wang Mingyu. They were not anxious. Since Fang Yuan wanted to compete and reduce prices, they would follow. After all, they would gain the market share if prices were equal. They had a huge advantage. This was the third drop in prices. After hearing news, Fang Yuan laughed heartily as cold light shone in his eyes. In that case, I will speed things up. This time, he lowered prices again. And this fall was drastic, far beyond the earlier rounds. This time, there was a huge commotion in Treasure Yellow Heaven. The buyers were excited. This was the result that they wanted. They had waited so long for this victorious moment. It fell by this much. Xia Baoshu had a solemn expression. He could feel Fang Yuan's overpowering attitude. If the earlier few rounds were light punches, this was a heavy kick. But Xia Baoshu had to react to it. If not, he would be kicked out of this war. Buyers had no loyalty after all. Price wars were very cruel. Xia Baoshu was the first to lower prices, followed by Wang Mingyu as they reached the same prices again. Rong Xian had a huge headache. He had wanted to drop his prices drastically earlier, but in his moment of hesitation, the opponent acted before he did anything. This way, not only would his earlier plans be ruined, if he wanted to go ahead with it, he would need to reduce his prices even further. But that would be a dangerous price, because if it becomes lower than the usual Gu sale price of previous years, the buyers would start buying enthusiastically. Or maybe that mysterious seller has little stock. He has the same plan as me. Rong Xian had his final bit of hope. He was the last to reduce his price, following the other three. They all lowered their prices. Ha ha ha. The buyers were very happy, but the happiest part had yet to come. When Rong Xian lowered his price, Fang Yuan continued to lower his Gu price again. And this time, it was even larger than before. Treasure Yellow Heaven was in a commotion. The three sellers were shocked. This will be a tough one. Xia Baoshu had a grim expression. He was originally relaxed and cool, he acted casually and without emotions, but now he could not contain himself anymore. Fang Yuan reduced the prices and shrunk the profits of the Year Gu business. For the three sellers, if they followed, they would suffer great loss of profits. He is going all out. Wang Mingyu was tongue-tied, she had a chilly feeling. She had not felt this for a long time already. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1455, Victor. Chapter 1455, Victor. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Rong Xian's lingering bit of hope was smashed. Because he knew that the other party was not like him, they had ample stock and this price would definitely create a huge commotion in the sale of Year Gu this time round. I lost this time. Rong Xian smiled bitterly, he had no choice but to give up due to his low quantity. Forget about excuses, losses were often justified with reasoning, but people in this world did not care about reasons, they did not need your excuses. They only cared about victory or loss. Like what Rong Xian expected, after Fang Yuan lowered his price, there was a huge wave of commotion and purchases. Many buyers started to purchase Year Gu. Such a cheap price was rarely seen. If they did not make use of this chance, how could they? Huge transactions were ongoing, Fang Yuan was raking in huge profits. But the other three parties did not follow him. Xia Baoshu and Wang Mingyu were hesitant. Earlier, Rong Xian hesitated, it was now their turn. If they followed Fang Yuan and lowered their prices too, their Year Gu would be sold rapidly as well. But if they did that, the profits would become too small. It would be far from their original expectations. But if they did not follow him, Fang Yuan would steal their business away. What should they do? The key to this was how much stock Fang Yuan had left. If Fang Yuan had excessive stock, Xia Baoshu and the rest would need to follow him. The market was only this big, there was only a limited amount of demand, the more Fang Yuan sold, the less they would sell. But if Fang Yuan had insufficient stock, Xia Baoshu and the rest would not need to lower prices, they just need to wait. After he finishes his stock, they would be able to sell at a higher price later, their profits would be retained. They would win this fight after all. Thus, Xia Baoshu and the rest started to think, who was this Fang Yuan exactly? Was he a man or a woman? Was he part of a force? Or an individual? Why was there no information about him earlier? Why did he appear out of nowhere? They could not understand. He appeared too suddenly. Actually, other than the three of them, the Year Gu market had other smaller sellers. But these people were quickly eliminated by them, because they could not be the seller now. Right now, those small business owners probably have pale expressions while watching this intense price war. Thinking of this, Rong Xian's mood became slightly better. He was unlucky and would likely be the first person out of this race, but there were even more unlucky people besides him, it made him feel a little better in comparison. But he was just consoling himself. It could not affect the reality of things. No matter how they thought about it, the three sellers could not decipher Fang Yuan's background. To play safe, Xia Baoshu and Wang Mingyu decided to follow after Fang Yuan and reduce prices too, until they match him. But Rong Xian did not follow them. It seems that Rong Xian thinks the seller does not have much stock. Xia Baoshu thought. But he did not know that Rong Xian was out of options. He had little stock, if he reduced prices by that much, the heated sales would deplete his stock, he would be out of the competition. He would rather keep his prices and take a gamble. If Fang Yuan had little stock, he would win and continue to stay in this. If not, he would lose, but that was no different from lowering prices anyway. Xia Baoshu did not know about Rong Xian's problem, he felt that he was gambling on Fang Yuan not having enough Year Gu. But Xia Baoshu had a stable mindset, he wanted to follow because that was the safest option. As for Wang Mingyu, after some consideration, she also made the same choice as Xiaobao Shu. But with her woman's intuition, she had more suspicions. She thought, why did Rong Xian not lower his price? Is he making a gamble, or does he know the other party's background, or does he have any evidence or news about it? If Rong Xian knew about Fang Yuan's background, it was possible that he would not tell the two of them about it. He was sitting on the fence and watching. This was advantageous to Rong Xian. Thus, Wang Mingyu contacted Rong Xian and tried to probe him. Rong Xian received Wang Mingyu's transmission and felt helpless about it. He felt some sympathy towards her. Overall, he had a complex emotion now. Thus, the current situation was, Fang Yuan, Xiaobao Shu, and Wang Mingyu had the same price, while Rong Xian's price was higher than them. At this time, large numbers of Gu immortals started to buy Year Gu, or started to prepare to buy them. Everyone was moved. This price was lower than ever before. It was an alluring price. Wait for an even lower price. The buyers shook their heads. It could not go much lower anymore. The buyers were smart, but the sellers were not stupid either. Thus, when Fang Yuan lowered his price again, everyone was stunned. Did I hear wrongly? They lowered the price again. And by such a huge amount? Oh my, what is going on? Is this new seller stupid? The buyers were in disbelief. I do not care if he is stupid or has other objectives. I know that his Year Gu are genuine products, and he is selling at this price indeed. If I do not buy now, I will be the fool. A Gu immortal cried out in his mind. But others were like this too. A huge amount of Gu immortal divine senses or wills surrounded Fang Yuan's stall. The heated scene was unprecedented. Buy. The Gu immortals were filled with this thought. It had never been this cheap before. If they wait until that fool realizes his prices are too low, it would be too late. The buyers felt a strong sense of urgency. What is this person doing? After seeing this, Xiaobao Shu lost his cool. If he followed this price, his profits would be reduced to just a sliver. For example, in previous years, if a Year Gu could earn 100 each, if he follows Fang Yuan's price, he would only get single-digit profits per Gu. Why did he spend so much effort on growing vicissitude trees? Wasn't it to nurture Year Gu and earn profits? If he reduced his prices to Fang Yuan's level, his profits would be gone. This price was way below his bottom line. If he had to sell at this price, he would rather keep the goods. But Xiaobao Shu frowned. He fell into deep contemplation. At the same time, Wang Mingyu was worried. Her situation was the same as Xiaobao Shu. If she followed Fang Yuan, her profits would be unacceptable. But should she stop selling? It was not so simple. If they did not follow and Fang Yuan's stock was huge, the market in Treasure Yellow Heaven would be completely taken over by Fang Yuan. There was another possibility. Fang Yuan was purposely lowering the price as a tactic. It was possible that he had only purposely lowered it this much to probe the other sellers, or to raise his own reputation. If I do not follow, I would be showing weakness, but I can preserve my strength. If I follow him, I would be clashing with that newcomer in a crazy manner. After thinking about it for a while, Wang Mingyu decided to follow him. But at this time, Xiaobao Shu had already stopped. The sale price of the Year Gu in the market was lowest at Fang Yuan and Wang Mingyu, followed by Xiaobao Shu and Rong Xian at the highest. Evidently, nobody was buying from those two shops. Most of the buyers were at Fang Yuan's and Wang Mingyu's shops. Xiaobao Shu was observing the situation. He needed to know if Fang Yuan was putting up a front or if he really had the foundation. Wang Mingyu was very nervous, because this sale price was losing her a lot of profits. And among the three sellers, she was the only one left. Rong Xian became the most relaxed person. He was watching them fight. It is about time to deal the final blow. Fang Yuan was very calm. At this point, he had probed the bottom line of these three sellers. Even though Wang Mingyu was still contesting with him, according to the usual market situation, the three sellers were about the same level. Even if Wang Mingyu was superior, it was not by much. Thinking of this, Fang Yuan lowered his price again. But this time, he only reduced it by a tiny little bit. However, this small drop in price was like a sharp blade stabbing into the three sellers' hearts. This? Rong Xian turned pale. Xia Baoshu squinted with a dark expression on his face. Wang Mingyu clenched her fists, she gritted her teeth and said in shock, "Why? Why go this far?" Fang Yuan's drop in price was small, but very fatal. It was lower than the cost price of these three sellers. Since Ye Gu was being sold, there were costs involved in obtaining them. Rong Xian needed Gu materials, he spent immortal essence to refine them using Gu refinement methods. Xia Baoshu had vicissitude trees, he also needed manpower and resources. Even though Wang Mingyu could capture Ye Gu from the tributary of the River of Time, the method used required immortal essences, and funds were needed to manage the tributary of the River of Time. Selling below the cost price, that would be a true loss. This was a move usually done by those who had a surplus of stock and could not sell them, or if they had an urgent need for funds, this was a desperate choice. If one did this in a price war, the competitors might be fine, but the person themselves would suffer a major loss first. This was too harsh, it was harsh to others, and also harsh to themselves. Wang Mingyu was shocked, she did not dare to follow him. She would be an idiot if she did. This was Ye Gu, the Gu was actually sold at a loss. What did that mean? The buyers were shocked too. This price was out of their imaginations, they were tongue-tied, completely in disbelief. But soon, the Gu immortals present reacted. Treasure Yellow Heaven was in a huge commotion. Countless Gu immortals surrounded Fang Yuan's stall tightly, the situation was completely chaotic and heated. This was no longer about buying. They were earning profits. Buying Ye Gu at this price, according to usual market prices, they were buying it at a profit. Countless transactions were undergoing, even those who already bought Ye Gu came back and purchased from Fang Yuan again. Fang Yuan's business was unthinkably booming, the other three sellers were completely ousted, they were in pathetic states. But at this time, the three sellers stopped being anxious. Who is this newcomer? He is so fierce in his moves, but I am afraid he has messed up now. He. Observe. I will observe. I refuse to believe that he can maintain the price of the Ye Gu at this low level. The three sellers were waiting for the time when Fang Yuan's losses became too severe. But Fang Yuan could go on endlessly. Because he was using rank 8 immortal Gu, years flow like water. The cost behind the production of Ye Gu was merely his immortal essence used to activate the rank 8 immortal Gu. Fang Yuan's production had costs, of course. But his cost was far lower, compared to the three sellers. If their cost price was 10, his was only 3 or 4. Anyone could sell Ye Gu, the quality of the goods was similar in most cases, the competition here was really only dependent on their cost. Fang Yuan sold at this price, but he could still earn profits, while the three sellers would sell at a loss. They were unable to sell, but Fang Yuan could dump his stock. The victor of this price war was decided from the start, it was undoubtedly Fang Yuan. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know, report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1456, Good News Upon Good News. Chapter 1456, Good News Upon Good News. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. It is finally over, this price war was truly interesting. Zhao Lian Yun sighed internally. The sale of Ye Gu ended in Fang Yuan's victory. Many Gu immortals were shocked by the results. Such situations were rare, the newcomer actually defeated three seniors in this market. Most of the people were originally thinking that the newcomer was a wolf while the three sellers were tigers and lions. But in the end, the newcomer was not a wolf but a dragon. The three sellers were not his match, they lost terribly and could not sell their Year Gu. For the following period, this Year Gu competition's influence will continue to spread, it will become a tale for people to talk about, Gu immortals would reminiscence over it. Zhao Lian Yun started to think about this price war. She wanted to gain knowledge from this price war, so as to learn something useful for herself. Then, why did the newcomer win in this battle while the long-time sellers lost? Zhao Lian Yun asked herself. Next, she answered herself, because the newcomer has great strength, even if the three sellers work together, they were not her match. Using absolute strength to sweep the market. Zhao Lian Yun was slightly dazed before smiling bitterly. She wanted to learn how to enter the market as a newcomer. Even though Fang Yuan's method seemed ingenious and meticulous, he had unparalleled strength to sweep the market and suppress all his competitors. Zhao Lian Yun could learn nothing from him. Because he used absolute strength. Since the newcomer has such strength, why did he not reduce the price from the start? Zhao Lian Yun asked herself. She felt like Fang Yuan's actions were a bit pointless. But soon, when she thought again, realization flashed across her eyes. I understand. Starting at a high price and gradually reducing it can earn more profits than dropping the prices immediately. He can also probe the three sellers' bottom lines. Finally, he is trying to assert dominance. The thoughts in Zhao Lian Yun's mind clashed continuously. After this competition ended, the newcomer won. It was no surprise he won with such strength, but he is definitely not satisfied with just one win. The newcomer wants to dominate Treasure Yellow Heaven's market. Not only does he want to defeat the three sellers, he wants to drive these people out of the market. This person is so overbearing. Sigh, when can I possess such strength too? Zhao Lian Yun thought of this and sighed deeply to herself. She had just started managing an immortal aperture, she was very far from Fang Yuan's level of development. No matter what, she had already etched Fang Yuan's fatty will to her mind. Zhao Lian Yun saw him as a mountain, she who had just become a Gu immortal could only watch and admire him. Rong Xian, Wang Mingyu, and Xia Baoshu were discussing among themselves. Sigh, where did this person come from? They have such great strength, able to satisfy the entire market in Treasure Yellow Heaven alone, our Year Gu are literally unsellable now. Wang Mingyu sighed. It is not so simple, he is trying to get rid of us entirely. Xia Baoshu was pale, his voice was turning shrill. Brother Xia is right, this person is selling Year Gu at such a low price, for the next few years, the market for Year Gu will shrink immensely. No matter who it is, they are going overboard. Not only did they take the bulk of the profit, they also refused to leave us any leftovers. Rong Xian had a grim expression. The three sellers had Year Gu, but they could not sell any. Year Gu was needed by everyone, Fang Yuan supplied this huge quantity, it caused a tremendous amount of sales, but these three could not get rid of any of their stock. Since Year Gu were easy to raise, they only fed on the water of the river of time, it was not hard to accumulate them at all. This way, not just now, for the next few years, the three sellers would not be able to sell their Year Gu. And for the buyers, since they had Year Gu themselves, why would they buy more? Unless the price was even lower, they might want to accumulate a bit more. But the three sellers could naturally not sell their Year Gu at Fang Yuan's price. The three sellers stored their Year Gu up for now. But what was the use of that? After 2 to 3 years, when the market regains its demand for Year Gu after fully digesting Fang Yuan's sales, the price of Year Gu will rise again. By then, the three sellers would be able to sell it, but Fang Yuan could do the same. If he did the same thing again, the three sellers would not be able to sell off their Year Gu once more. This was strength. With such a difference in strength, no plots or schemes could work. Fang Yuan was a very intelligent person, but this time, he acted straightforwardly, it was most effective to directly crush them. The three sellers became quiet after a while of discussion. The atmosphere was very heavy. Because they knew clearly that as long as Fang Yuan had this strength, they would not have an easy time in the future. Even though the sale of Year Gu would not disappear, their profits from this business would shrink drastically, they would need to give up on the market in Treasure Yellow Heaven. Right now, we can only hope that this person is putting up a front, that his actions were all just to scare us off. Wang Mingyu smiled bitterly and broke the silence. The other two immortals shook their heads. This was very unlikely. We can work together. Rong Xian said quickly. This was a solution. In the past, the three of them fought and competed, only after a while did they set an agreement to work together and gain profits together for a long time. But how can we cooperate with him? The difference in strength is apparent. Wang Mingyu sighed. Xia Baoshu analyzed calmly, that will depend on our ability. If Ye Gu cannot convince him, we will need to discuss other things. What if he does not agree? Wang Mingyu asked again. Xia Baoshu was silent. Rong Xian sighed bitterly, if he does not agree and wants us out of the business, we can only give up on the Ye Gu business. There was nothing that could be done about it. Competition was cruel. Fang Yuan's strength made it impossible for the three sellers, they could only give up on Ye Gu. But how could they give up so easily? The profit of the Ye Gu business was sustaining them and the super forces behind them, now that it was destroyed, who could handle the outcome? No. I cannot give up on the Ye Gu business. Xia Baoshu gritted his teeth, he was a lone cultivator, he had been relying on Ye Gu to support his cultivation and connections to others. With this loss, it was a detrimental blow to him. Wang Mingyu's situation was slightly better than Xia Baoshu, she was once a lone immortal, she had turned over to the righteous path and joined a superforce. Even if there were no profits here, it was not her responsibility. On the other hand, she could rely on her husband and the clan behind them. Rong Xian had the smallest pressure. Because he was also a member of a superforce, it was a central continent superforce with deep foundations. And most importantly, he obtained Ye Gu from refining Gu. If he did not need Ye Gu, he could just stop refining it. It was easy for him to change businesses. Cooperate with me? Fang Yuan soon received their transmissions, he sneered. Why would he cooperate? He could easily devour the market alone, why would he hand over the profits to them? Fang Yuan rejected them immediately. 12 million immortal essence stones. These were Fang Yuan's gains in the price war. Even though his price was low, the quantity sold was too immense, he still accumulated a huge sum. When I drive these three sellers out of the market, I will be able to raise prices slightly. But for the next few years, the three sellers will likely still stay in here. Fang Yuan evaluated. On one hand, they were unwilling to give up, on the other hand, they wanted to probe Fang Yuan's foundation and see if he was scamming them. And finally, even though Treasure Yellow Heaven's market was taken by Fang Yuan, not everyone bought things from Treasure Yellow Heaven. For example, Wang Mingyu's super force behind her would buy a huge portion of her Ye Gu. Other than that, there were many forces which would buy their Ye Gu even if prices were higher to maintain relationships. Of course, as long as Fang Yuan continued to dominate the market of Treasure Yellow Heaven using such methods, in 5 to 6 years, these three sellers would have an even harder time. After all, the prices were too low, even with their deep relationships, buyers would want to buy from Fang Yuan. In the entire Gu Immortal World's market, Treasure Yellow Heaven was a huge proportion of it. From now on, Fang Yuan only needed to dominate Treasure Yellow Heaven, he would eventually influence the other markets and become the biggest seller of the Ye Gu business in the entire Gu Immortal World. As for the others, even if they could do some Ye Gu business, they could not compare to him. After repaying my debts, I still have 10 million immortal essence stones left. But for the next 2 to 3 years, this way of getting profits cannot be used. While Fang Yuan was thinking of how to use these immortal essence stones to manage his immortal aperture, Sixth Heir approached him. He gave Fang Yuan some excellent news. Elder Fang Yuan, the food path immortal Gu that you wanted me to refine has been created. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know in report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1457, Food Path Immortal Gu Snack. Chapter 1457, Food Path Immortal Gu Snack. Translator, Atlas Studios. Editor, Atlas Studios. A small food path immortal Gu was in the center of Fang Yuan's palm. It was green throughout, about the size of an adult's thumb, but its body was split into 6 segments like a caterpillar. And on its forehead, there was a silver horn. At this moment, it was lying around in Fang Yuan's palm, rolling around according to Fang Yuan's will. It had been refined already. When refinement path Gu immortals successfully refine immortal Gu, in most situations, the immortal Gu would have already been refined by them. That meant Sixth Hair was the owner of this food path immortal Gu. But due to Sixth Hair handing it over to him, Fang Yuan could easily refine this food path immortal Gu compared to wild immortal Gu. Rank 6 Food Path Immortal Gu, Snack. This was one of the Gu that Fang Yuan wanted Xianxia sect to refine. After inheriting Purple Mountain True Monarch's inheritance, he had requested Xianxia sect to refine 3 immortal Gu for him. And right now, they had already been completed. They were rank 7 Immortal Gu Self-Love, rank 6 Immortal Gu Cleanse Soul, and rank 6 Immortal Gu Snack. These 3 immortal Gu were needed by Fang Yuan urgently. Self-Love Immortal Gu was very useful. It was the core of self-cleansing. It was necessary to him. Fang Yuan could get away from Heavenly Court's investigative methods due to it. Even though Cleanse Soul Immortal Gu was rank 6, the difficulty of refining it was the biggest among the 3. But after refining it, Fang Yuan solved the soul path trap on the 8-arm immortal zombie body. He could use the light of wisdom once again. It was incredibly useful to him. As for Snack Immortal Gu, it was a food path immortal Gu. Fang Yuan needed it to solve the problem of feeding his immortal Gu. The immortal Gu recipe of Snack Immortal Gu came from Shadow Sect. The source was Spectral Soul Demon Venerable. In his life, he had killed the Beastman Gu Immortal and obtained his food path true inheritance. That Beastman Gu Immortal was the legendary figure who created food path. Seniors paved the way for juniors. The food path true inheritance in Fang Yuan's hands was the most authentic one in the world. After injecting Red Date Immortal Essence, Snack Immortal Gu's caterpillar body shook like it had gotten drunk. Its lower half sprawled out on Fang Yuan's palm while the upper half stood up and shook its head. In the process, its green body turned red, until it turned into a lava-like color. At the same time, its slim body became thicker gradually. Plop. Eventually, it spat out a large amount of sticky yellowish liquid from its mouth, before it shriveled and shrunk until it was smaller than normal. Its body also turned from red to pale white, like it had been weakened. With the food path true inheritance, Fang Yuan knew clearly that Snack Immortal Gu had a restricted usage. After each usage, it needed time to heal before it could be used again. If Fang Yuan used it continuously beyond its limits, it would spit out a large amount of yellowish water before dying rapidly. Only when it recovers and its leaves turn green again could it be activated once more. Fang Yuan placed Snack Immortal Gu into his immortal aperture before turning his attention to the yellowish liquid. This liquid was very special. It floated in the air and did not land. It shrunk into a small ball. It was like an egg that has the white and yolk mixed together. This yellowish liquid was what Fang Yuan wanted to get. With it, he could feed his immortal Gu in place of a portion of the food they needed. For other rank 6 immortal Gu, this yellowish liquid could make up 6% of their food. The effect was weaker for rank 7 immortal Gu. 6% seemed little, but Snack Immortal Gu could be used again in a few days. It would squirt out another glob of yellowish liquid. If he accumulated it, it would be very helpful towards the feeding of his immortal Gu. Of course, there was a limit to the amount of yellowish liquid that he could use. It could replace a maximum of 40% of the immortal Gu's food. Beyond that, it would not have any effect. Fang Yuan took out an immortal Gu as it quickly devoured the yellowish liquid. The test was completed perfectly. Fang Yuan nodded in satisfaction while sighing internally. He had wanted food path methods long ago, because since rebirth, he had many immortal Gu with him. He had a huge burden of feeding them. Before now, Fang Yuan had been very busy in feeding his immortal Gu. To think that I would obtain a food path true inheritance from my great enemy Shadow Sect. And it is actually the best food path true inheritance in the world. And the process of refining snack Immortal Gu was much easier than cleanse soul and self-love. The refinement of Immortal Gu was really hard to estimate. In order to refine cleanse soul, Fang Yuan failed many times, but when refining snack Immortal Gu, he only made 5 attempts. Success on the 5th try was a huge surprise. With this snack Immortal Gu, Fang Yuan's pressure of feeding Immortal Gu was much smaller, by reducing the food of rank 6 Immortal Gu by 40% and replacing it with Immortal Essence. Even though the effect was weaker on rank 7 and 8 Immortal Gu, his burden was much lighter now. After all, Fang Yuan had a huge number of Immortal Gu with him now. Snack Immortal Gu held huge value to him. A few days later, Fang Yuan successfully bought a batch of desolate plants from Treasure Yellow Heaven. This batch of desolate plants was a thin layer of green fungal lawn. It lived on the surface of multicolored coral groups. It was light shine fungi. Light shine fungi lived deep in Eastern Sea. It was pure darkness there without any light. Due to the profundities of nature, the light shine fungi grew in that area and emitted an intense light, turning the dark sea into a shining area, like it was daytime. Fang Yuan had once tried to buy a batch in the Eastern Sea auction, but back then, Tonghua only wanted to trade them. Afterwards, she sold them in Treasure Yellow Heaven, and after some evaluation, the price got lower and lower. Initially, the Gu Immortals were very interested in this desolate plant. But afterwards, the buyers found out that this desolate plant was most suited to live in the completely dark deep sea. There was immense water pressure at that depth as well. After leaving this environment, even though the light shine fungi would not die, they would shrivel and emit a weak candle-like light. In this situation, Fang Yuan negotiated with Tonghua and bought all the light shine fungi that she had at the lowest price possible. Fang Yuan first placed a portion into his immortal aperture's mini Eastern Sea to nurture them. Next, he experimented on the remaining amount. He needed to modify this desolate plant so that it would change its characteristics and be usable to him. Fang Yuan's wood path attainment level was ordinary, but he was very confident. On one hand, he had too many methods. Shadow Sect's inheritances along with Xianxia Sect's true inheritances gave him a large number of modification methods, among which involved wood path, soul path, refinement path, and others. On the other hand, Fang Yuan had the ultimate trump card, the light of wisdom. Even if these methods were not useful, he could deduce his own way. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1458, Light Shine Fungi Business. Chapter 1458, Light Shine Fungi Business. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. In the vast Eastern Sea, waves were rumbling. Wind and waves swept towards a nameless island. It was not dusk yet, but the sky was already dark. Tonghua flew as she raised her head. Seeing the dark clouds looming over her in the sky, she sensed that a storm was brewing. She was feeling vexed, but her expression was calm. She quickly flew above the nameless island as she saw one person standing at the highest part of the island, looking at the sea and sky. I have kept you waiting. Tonghua landed towards the Gu Immortal as she bowed. The mysterious Gu Immortal turned around and revealed his appearance. He was an elderly man with a tall nose and thin eyes. He was smiling now as he said calmly, "No worries. Fairy Tonghua, I need to congratulate you. I heard that you sold all of your light shine fungi in Treasure Yellow Heaven." This elderly Gu Immortal was an Eastern Sea rank 7 enslavement path Gu Immortal, Ren Xiaoping. Fairy Tonghua nodded as she handed Ren Xiaoping a large amount of immortal essence stones. Ren Xiaoping inspected it before hesitating purposely. "Fairy, if I counted correctly, the sum is a little lacking." Fairy Tonghua had a grim expression. She nodded. "I will return you most of it first, I will repay the rest at a later time." Ren Xiaoping nodded, "Very wise. According to our agreement, the lower your remaining debt is, the less interest you pay. It seems that you will be able to repay it soon. Fairy Tong Hua snorted, of course. She had gone through a tribulation earlier, the rebuilding of her immortal aperture took a lot of funds, she had to borrow. Ren Xiaoping was one of the lenders, he lent her the most amount of immortal essence stones. But her agreement with Ren Xiaoping was also the strictest one with the highest interest rate. Originally, Fairy Tong Hua was in a terrible condition, but to think that Fang Yuan actually bought all of her light shine fungi, she regained some funds. Returning most of the debt at once, her crisis was greatly alleviated. Fairy Tong Hua had little pressure in returning the rest of the debt including the interest. After the transaction, Fairy Tong Hua did not want to stay anymore, she was about to leave when Ren Xiaoping said, "Fairy, wait. What matter do you have? If you want to lend more immortal essence stones, forgive me, but I will not borrow any." Fairy Tong Hua frowned lightly as she said coldly. Ren Xiaoping smiled, "Don't worry Fairy, that is not it. I have an incomplete true inheritance in my hands, it is from a woodpath great expert long ago. Don't you want to modify the light shine fungi? I believe this true inheritance will be of great help to you." Fairy Tong Hua became suspicious, "How did you know that I was modifying the light shine fungi?" Ren Xiaoping chuckled, "You did not conceal this matter, I easily found out about it with some investigation." Fairy Tong Hua had a grim expression, matching the terrible weather. Splash splash splash. Great winds blew, waves crashed on the shore of the nameless island, creating huge ripples. Ren Xiaoping was right, Tong Hua had invested too much into modifying the light shine fungi, causing her finances to crumble, she was forced to borrow funds to maintain her financial situation. If not for that, with her foundation, she could sustain the cost of rebuilding the immortal aperture. After a while of silence, Fairy Tong Hua asked, "Which woodpath great expert are you referring to?" Ren Xiaoping smiled, "Woodpath Gu Immortal Kue Wu Zi, have you heard of him?" Fairy Tong Hua was slightly surprised, he is a woodpath great expert indeed with rank 8 cultivation level. But in history, he was famous for battle strength, his immortal aperture management was not good. Ren Xiaoping shook his head, saying in a confident tone, "Fairy, that is not true. You have that impression because Kue Wu Zi's battle strength was too stunning, it overshadowed his ability to manage the immortal aperture. The truth is, he was quite impressive. Without immortal aperture foundation, battle strength is pointless to some degree. Furthermore, even if his management was not good, he was still a rank 8 Gu immortal, and was from Woodpath, he is definitely very useful to you, that is undeniable." Tong Hua was moved, she thought, "I had been facing problems with modifying light shine fungi earlier, the reason was not my light path attainment level but Woodpath instead. If I can get this incomplete true inheritance, it would likely help me in this problem and the modification of the light shine fungi would succeed." Thinking of this, Tong Hua hesitated before asking Ren Xiaoping, "What is the price of Kue Wu Zi's true inheritance?" Ren Xiaoping thought, the fish has taken the bait but he said, not high at all." Both sides negotiated but eventually, Fairy Tong Hua bought the true inheritance of Kue Wu Zi from Ren Xiaoping and left the nameless island. The moment she left, a storm started. Both the sky and sea were of the same dark murky color. Crack! A loud thunder and a snake-like lightning flashed across heaven and earth. At this instant, the lightning reflected on Ren Xiaoping's face. He was smiling like his scheme had succeeded. "I succeeded." Tong Hua was deceived by the reputation of Kue Wu Zi, his true inheritance is actually not very helpful to her. Especially after I took out some crucial information from it. Light shine fungus is a desolate plant, how can it be easy to modify a desolate plant? Especially when Tong Hua cultivates light path instead of wood path, how can she succeed without years of research? Northern Plains, Langya blessed land. Fang Yuan's divine sense entered his sovereign immortal aperture. Immortal killer move, light fungus radiance. Fang Yuan activated his immortal killer move, creating a burst of orange-yellow light. The orange light shone on the green light shine fungi as it started to transform. The light shine fungi was dyed at a rapid rate, it gradually changed colors from green to pure white. A moment later, the immortal killer move was successfully activated. Fang Yuan only saw pure white light shine fungi in front of him. The light shine fungi was different from before, instead of wilting, they radiated with strong light. Fang Yuan used his investigative methods to check it before nodding in satisfaction. Excellent, the light shine fungus modification was quite successful, I can start a wide-scale plantation now. Fang Yuan's wood path attainment was even lower than Fairy Tonghua. But he had the light of wisdom to assist his thinking. He also had shadow sex and Langya sex inheritances, he had a vast amount of foundational knowledge. He also had access to a huge number of immortal Gu, and could even borrow more. Due to many reasons, he managed to create the immortal killer move light fungus radiance. This move used Perseverance Immortal Gu, Self-Love Immortal Gu and Wood Sprout Immortal Gu as the cores, with Snack Immortal Gu supplementing them, to allow green light shine fungi to transform into pure white light shine fungi, suited for the environment of the sky. Among them, Wood Sprout Immortal Gu was borrowed from Langya sect. Perseverance and Self-Love were Fang Yuan's to begin with. As for Snack Immortal Gu, he had just refined it, it was quite a surprise that it was useful so quickly. Afterwards, Fang Yuan placed the light shine fungi into Mini Orange Heaven and Mini White Heaven. There was a field of aurora lights in Mini Orange Heaven, within the aurora lights were fruits known as flowing light fruits. As for Mini White Heaven, there was a field of multicolored overlord flowers. After placing the light shine fungi there, the two places started to shine intensely. Due to this influence, Mini Orange Heaven's aurora lights started to expand. Even though the extent was mild, as time passes, this would be a substantial change. As for Mini White Heaven, the multicolored overlord flowers also became energized. Be it the aurora lights or multicolored overlord flowers, they needed intense lights. The modified pure white light shine fungi could float in the sky, they were very helpful to the areas. Fang Yuan was satisfied after inspecting them. As long as these two areas are developed at this rate, I will be able to satisfy the food requirements of Attitude Gu and Wisdom Sword Gu. Fang Yuan had 3 rank 8 immortal Gu, years flow like water consumed the water of the river of time, there were no issues with its food. Attitude Gu and Wisdom Sword Immortal Gu were harder to deal with. All along, Fang Yuan had been worried about this, and now, he saw hope of finally resolving this. Furthermore, the light shine fungus can reproduce by itself. When the scale of my light shine fungi increases in the future, it will become another business that I can engage in. This was highly possible. The pure white light shine fungus that Fang Yuan modified was marketable, it was much better than the original light shine fungus. If he sold it, it would receive much attention and interest. Fang Yuan had already planned, he was going to nurture both versions of the light shine fungus. He would place a portion of the green light shine fungi into Mini Eastern Sea, while putting most of his attention on the pure white light shine fungi. After satisfying his own needs, he would sell the rest. Let me count. To get the light shine fungi into a scale that satisfies my needs, I will need to invest 2 million immortal essence stones. To make it into a business and sell it to others, I will need to invest another 1.8 million immortal essence stones. The feeding of rank 8 immortal Gu was too high of a burden. In total, he would need 4 million immortal essence stones. But if he succeeds, he would have a monopoly over this market, it was extremely profitable. For the next 2 to 3 years, the year Gu market would be oversupplied. Even for the next 4 to 5 years, Treasure Yellow Heavens market would be very lacking in demand. Because Gu immortals already had a lot of year Gu stocked up in their inventories. Just earlier, Fang Yuan created a huge commotion. The sale of year Gu also affected the market of month Gu and day Gu. Fang Yuan wanted to create a new business, light shine fungi was a good choice. Of course, the prospects could not match Guts Gu. After he sells the modified light shine fungi for some time, people will learn about the details and modify it themselves. Meanwhile, only Dang Hun Mountain could produce Guts Gu. Next, I will release the restraints and restore the sovereign immortal aperture's rate of time back to normal. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1459, Marriage with Fang Yuan. Chapter 1459, Marriage with Fang Yuan. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Northern Plains, Northern Icy Plain. A blizzard was blowing, snow was falling above the glacier. Under this glacier, a negotiation filled with heavy atmosphere was underway. The two groups of variant humans who lived here in seclusion, the Rockmen and Snowmen, were engaging in negotiation due to a territorial dispute earlier. Right now, this negotiation had been going on for 6 days and 6 nights. Moli region belongs to my Rockman tribe, it had been part of our territory since 400 years ago. This is the bottom line of our Rockman tribe, I hope the Snowmen can understand us. Zong spoke loudly, his voice echoed in the room. The Rockman Gu immortals who were engaged in the negotiation were extremely stubborn. Meanwhile, the Snowman Gu immortals had dark and unsightly expressions. The Rockman tribe was very firm on this topic, it was an immense pressure on the Snowmen. Snowman Gu immortal Bing Yuan said, that was the case 400 years ago. But afterwards, a senior Gu immortal in our tribe won a bet against you, first Supreme Elder Zong, and this Moli region was the wager. Zong waved his hand rapidly, that was just a joke, it should not be taken for real. Bing Yuan smiled coldly, an agreement was set back then. Zong had a solemn expression, countering, where is the agreement now? Bing Yuan was so angry she could not speak. This Zong, not only did he use information path methods to get rid of the agreement, he even denied the bet, as the first supreme elder of the Rockman tribe, he was simply too shameless. But the Snowman Gu immortals understood why, even though they were furious. Because there was just too little territory in this icy plain, after living here for so long, the Rockmen and Snowmen had propagated beyond the sustainable number for this place. Zong was being so shameless to get back Moli region, it was for the sake of the Rockmen, and for their overall benefit. But in this case, the Snowman tribe's benefits were infringed. Eventually, this difficult negotiation had a result. The Snowmen lost while the Rockmen won, they gained control of Moli region. Immediately, the Rockmen ordered the Snowmen to leave Moli region, to hand over the space to the Rockmen in charge. After returning to their territory, Rank 7 Gu Immortal Bingzhua said angrily, these Rockmen are too much, how can they distort facts just because they have the Rank 8 Battle Strength Immemorial Rock Dragon? Bing Yuan consoled him, stay calm Bingzhua, haven't we known about the Rockman tribe's attitude for the last 1,000 years? The Snowmen and Rockmen were living together in the northern icy plain, but the Rockmen had the advantage over them. There was only one reason, the Rank 8 Battle Strength Immemorial Rock Dragon. With such powerful strength, the Rockmen gained the advantage in many conflicts between the two tribes and defended their own benefits. Upon hearing the immemorial rock dragon, Bingzhua's rage faded, he sighed helplessly, sigh. Rank 8 Battle Strength, Immemorial Rock Dragon, if we had Rank 8 Battle Strength too, we would contest them evenly, that would be great. Bing Yuan was silent for a moment before saying, it is not impossible to gain Rank 8 Battle Strength. I have a plan, if we succeed, the immemorial rock dragon will be nothing compared to it. Bingzhua heard this and his eyes shone, what plan, tell me. Actually, I have been planning this for some time, at this current moment, we have an opportunity, I will tell you. Bing Yuan said. Bingzhua heard this and called out, you mean Lu Guanyi, wait no, Fang Yuan. Lu Guanyi's true identity, which was Fang Yuan, had been exposed by Heavenly Court long ago to the world. Even though the Snowman tribe were isolated, they still learned of such important details. Fang Yuan undoubtedly has Rank 8 Battle Strength. He even has the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle, and we've had a relationship for some time, if we let Shuai be married to him, we would have a marriage connection with him, he will be tied to our tribe. With this, our tribe will no longer be bullied by the Rockmen. Furthermore, having a Rank 8 to defend us will be extremely helpful for our development. Bing Yuan said. Bingzhua thought while nodding, indeed, Fang Yuan is a human but he has countless enemies, he has also joined Langya sect, there is no problem with his allegiance. But wait. Bing Zhuo looked at Bing Yuan. We have a relationship with him. Why do I recall that we only fought him and ambushed him? Even though we made up later, we are far from having an actual relationship. Bing Yuan smiled. Bing Zhuo, you were in seclusion to modify your killer move earlier, therefore you are unaware. During this period of time, Fang Yuan used all of Lang Yasek's strength to refine Immortal Gu. He met with difficulty in the process and needed the immortal material Snow Lotus Essence. I made the decision to sell a lot of our Snow Lotus Essence to Lang Yasek's sixth heir to help him out. So that's it. Bing Zhuo realized, but he soon frowned. Since it is a transaction, we gain from it too. Why did we not just gift him the Snow Lotus Essence? Bing Yuan smiled bitterly. This matter had many implications. I had no choice but to do that. Firstly, I did not have a strong desire towards the marriage connection. Secondly, if we gifted it to him without cost, Fang Yuan is not a stupid person, he might not accept it. Thirdly, if everyone knows about it, the Rockman tribe would become suspicious of our intentions. Bing Zhuo nodded and did not speak. He understood that rather than a relationship, they had only barely started to build one with him. It was very difficult to have a marriage connection with him. Because earlier, when Fang Yuan had the upper extreme heavenly eagle, the Snowman had expressed goodwill to Fang Yuan, but he was extremely cold to them. And right now, Fang Yuan had rank 8 battle strength with the upper extreme heavenly eagle as well, his status had elevated even further. If the Snowmen wanted to ally with him through marriage, they were not the ones helping him, they were trying to raise their own status. The Snowmen did not know that Fang Yuan had lost the upper extreme heavenly eagle. But Bing Yuan had more confidence than Bing Zhuo. She said, "Don't worry, my granddaughter has incredible looks and is a Gu immortal, she is the perfect person to marry. How can the rock men surpass us in this? We have the advantage. Even though our marriage connection ends in us relying on him, Fang Yuan can also receive our help, it is beneficial to him. Let alone anything else, we at least have Snow Lotus Essence. Or rather, even if this plan fails, there are no problems, our relationship with Fang Yuan will not worsen. We can try." This reasoning finally moved Bing Zhuo. The latter nodded, "Let's try it." Inside the sovereign immortal aperture. Swoosh swoosh. The water of the river of time splashed with a grand commotion, reverberating in Fang Yuan's ears. Fang Yuan's divine sense swept around. After some observation, there were no issues, he retracted his divine sense. Using the time path methods from He Fan True Inheritance, Fang Yuan restored the rate of time in his sovereign immortal aperture back to its original speed. The rate of time in the sovereign immortal aperture was very fast, it far surpassed super-grade blessed lands. In terms of space path, there was more than 335,000 square kilometers of space in it. In terms of time path, the speed was 1 to 60 compared to the outside world. The 10 extreme physique blessed land only had about a 1 to 40 rate of time. As for high-grade blessed lands, the time was about 1 to 30, half of the sovereign immortal aperture. At the same time, the immortal aperture origin core had a deep foundation, 96 immortal essence beads were produced in the immortal aperture each year. In terms of outside time, it was 16 immortal essence beads per day. Fang Yuan was a rank 7 Gu immortal now, so he obtained 16 red date immortal essence beads daily. 16 red date immortal essence beads, in terms of immortal essence stones, that was 1600 immortal essence stones. That was to say, even if Fang Yuan did nothing every day, his immortal aperture would still produce the equivalent of 1600 immortal essence stones for him daily. That was terrifying. And in fact, that was not all. When Fang Yuan's time path Dao marks increase, his immortal aperture's rate of time would accelerate. When his immortal aperture origin core's foundation becomes deeper, the number of beads of immortal essence produced would increase too. At rank 8 cultivation level, it would be even more terrifying. At the most basic level, 16 immortal essence beads per day of rank 8 white lychee immortal essence would be the equivalent of 160,000 immortal essence stones. Fang Yuan managed to earn millions of immortal essence stones from selling Year Gu. But when he reaches rank 8 cultivation level, he could obtain 16 million immortal essence stones worth of immortal essence beads every 100 days without doing anything. The higher the cultivation level, the deeper the growth in resources. This was not a linear growth, the increment was far greater. Of course, that was for Fang Yuan's case. The sovereign immortal aperture was a unique situation in the world. Shadow Sect spent 100,000 years to accumulate resources and used it all to refine this Gu. It was understandable why this was so terrifying. Earlier, Fang Yuan was forced by heaven's will and tribulations to reduce his immortal aperture's rate of time. But now, with his surge in battle strength, Fang Yuan was confident in getting past calamities and tribulations. With the immortal killer move exposing heavenly secret created by old man Xianxia, he could obtain the details of calamities and tribulations in advance. And together with his own development needs, he had to restore the rate of time. In fact, Fang Yuan even planned to use time path methods to further increase the speed. But I need to wait now. The time path methods in He Fan's True Inheritance have a cooldown period before I can use them again to influence the tributary of the River of Time. With my accelerated rate of time, the light shine fungi can reproduce rapidly now. I should place Wisdom Sword Immortal Gu and Attitude Gu outside the immortal aperture. Fang Yuan calculated, at this rate, he would be able to satisfy the feeding of Attitude Gu and Wisdom Sword Gu. It was about time to feed them. But rank 8 Immortal Gu were too hard to feed. This problem had been in Fang Yuan's mind for a long time, and as time passed, his pressure intensified. Now that he could settle this problem, Fang Yuan finally let out a sigh of relief. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1460, Million Man Soul. Chapter 1460, Million Man Soul. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Heavenly Court, Soul Suppression Hall. Fairy Ziwei looked at the lump of Spectral Soul's main body in front of her as she frowned. Spectral Soul, at this point, can't you see reality? Spectral Soul did not answer, he was silent like a rock. Fairy Ziwei sneered, she activated her rank 8 Immortal Gu house. Immediately, purple lightning emerged from the chains, as Spectral Soul who was restrained tightly started shaking. His memories were forcefully extracted, appearing before Fairy Ziwei as a multicolored image. It was a scene of the past. Spectral Soul had yet to become a demon venerable, he only had rank 7 Gu immortal cultivation level. Luopa Valley. Spectral Soul stumbled into Luopa Valley and fell on the ground. Guh. He opened his mouth and spit out a mouthful of blood. His expression was pale as paper, the situation was terrible, he was near death. A figure descended from the sky, he landed and said, "O Spectral Soul, you cannot escape, today, you will die." The person had rank 8 aura, he had a cold expression, his strength was far higher than Spectral Soul. Spectral Soul barely managed to sit up as he looked at the sky. "I do not understand, this is the first time we are meeting, we have no grudges, why are you paying such a huge price to kill me?" The person called out, "Because you will create bloodshed in the world, you will massacre the people of the world and bring disaster to all." Spectral Soul sneered, "You have killed far more people than me, isn't it laughable for you to say that?" The rank 8 enemy shook his head, "It is different. You are inherently worse than me." Spectral Soul was silent for a while before saying, "Because I want to create Soul Path." The rank 8 Gu Immortal had a flash of surprise in his eyes, but he recovered quickly and said solemnly, "That's right, Soul Path should not be created. In the current world, Fate Immortal Gu has been damaged, if Soul Path is created, the world will change drastically, the dead will not rest in peace, ghosts will roam the world freely." He, ha ha ha. Spectral Soul laughed, "That's wonderful, I will definitely create Soul Path. In the future, countless people will cultivate Soul Path, let's change this entire world." He laughed as he stood up, he had recovered to an extent already. "With me around, that is wishful thinking." The person sneered and charged down. Spectral Soul raised his hands and a huge formation appeared, trapping the rank 8 Gu Immortal inside. But the enemy reacted rapidly, he quickly broke the Gu formation. Did you think I did not notice the hidden Gu formation? I purposely came here to talk to you, because I had already unraveled this Gu formation. The rank 8 Gu immortal charged towards Spectral Soul relentlessly. But Spectral Soul was extremely confident. He stood on the spot as the rank 8 Gu immortal came at him. He laughed. You merely unraveled that Gu formation at the surface level, don't you find this valley unusual? He had just said that when the Gu formation unleashed its full power, the rank 8 Gu immortal was immediately affected as his momentum came to a halt. This is Luopa Valley. The rank 8 Gu immortal said in shock. That's right, this secluded domain of heaven and earth is the ultimate sacred land for cultivating soul path. It is also your final resting place. Spectral Soul declared with the tone of a victor. Ah! The rank 8 Gu immortal screamed. Spectral Soul's immortal formation used the power of Luopa Valley. It was akin to a rank 9 Gu formation. The rank 8 Gu immortal resisted for a while, before he could not take it anymore and died. Spectral Soul looked at his feet, towards the corpse of the rank 8 Gu immortal. His hair was messy and his 7 orifices were bleeding, but he was still filled with killing intent. He sneered, "Humph, Heavenly Court's Gu immortals, interesting. I, Spectral Soul, swear that I will create soul path in the future. I will let more people cultivate it. Even if I fail and die, there will be an endless number of soul path Gu immortal experts emerging in the future." Ha ha ha. The image vanished. Fairy Ziwei had a dark expression. She looked at Spectral Soul's main body, which was immobilized. She left after staring at him for a short while. Even though she extracted Spectral Soul's memories, they were useless. In fact, it was as if he was replying to her earlier words. If it was the latter, it meant that Spectral Soul could still resist Heavenly Court's soul-searching method. Even though he could not block the power of Soul Suppression Hall, he could selectively hand certain memories over. That way, it will be a long time before we can get any useful information from him. Fairy Ziwei sighed deeply in her mind. Langya Blessed Land, Luopa Valley. Fang Yuan was sitting deep in the valley. He willed and activated Luopa formation. This formation came from Spectral Soul's true inheritance. It was created by Spectral Soul Demon Venerable personally. The foundational Gu worms used for it were a vast number of White Lotus Giant Silkworm Gu. White Lotus Giant Silkworm Gu was the food of Cleansed Soul Immortal Gu. It was also created by Spectral Soul Demon Venerable. After Fang Yuan obtained the Gu recipe, he made Langya sect refine a huge number of White Lotus Giant Silkworm Gu for him. And now, he had Cleansed Soul Immortal Gu again. Not only could he feed it with sufficient White Lotus Giant Silkworm Gu, he could even use them as the foundation of many Soul Path Gu formations in Spectral Soul's true inheritance. Right now, Luopa formation was activated. The originally unorganized Luopa winds and bewilderment fog started to gather with the Gu formation's activation. Fang Yuan's soul left his body as he endured the trial of wind and fog. Before this, he had already expended a huge amount of guts Gu. His soul was quite bloated now. A moment later, Luopa formation stopped activating as Fang Yuan's soul became thinned out from the tempering. He returned to sovereign immortal body with deep fatigue. With Luopa formation, my cultivation efficiency in Luopa Valley has increased by 30%. Fang Yuan assessed. This was not the first time he was using this formation. Luopa formation was specially used to cultivate soul path, but he could add other Gu formations in to modify it. It was a very inclusive Gu formation. That was its most useful trait. For example, Qin Bai Sheng and the rest resisted the group from Central Continent's 10 great ancient sects. The Gu formation they used during the battle was Luopa formation. However, their Luopa formation was not for cultivation, it was for defense. According to Spectral Soul's true inheritance, when he was alive, he had killed a rank 8 Gu immortal from Heavenly Court with only rank 7 cultivation level. Back then, he also used Luopa formation, but he added in many Gu formations that were offensive in nature. The Luopa formation that Fang Yuan was using now focused on refining his soul. It used rank 6 Immortal Gu Cleansed Soul, and a vast number of White Lotus Giant Silkworm Gu, along with many supplementary Gu to assemble it. Alright, after this cultivation session, my soul has already reached million-man soul level. In Spectral Soul's true inheritance, soul foundation was classified into many levels. From low to high, there was single-man soul, 10-man soul, 100-man soul, million-man soul, 10 million-man soul, 100 million-man soul. 10-man soul meant that the soul foundation was the total of 10 grown men's souls. A normal Gu master with 20 years of soul path cultivation could reach 1000-man soul if they worked hard. But using Daoist Gu, Fang Yuan could reach that instantly. Before this cultivation session, Fang Yuan's soul foundation was at 3 million-man soul. But after the tempering of Luo Po wind and bewilderment fog, his soul foundation stabilized at million-man soul level. First using Daoist Gu to strengthen the soul, before cultivating in Luo Po Valley to temper the soul like iron and removing impurities. Finally, he would sleep and rest the soul, getting rid of any agitation. These 3 steps repeated would raise Fang Yuan's soul foundation like a rocket. Only a short time had passed, but he had already reached million-man soul. The speed was too shocking. When he reaches 100 million-man soul, his soul would turn from phantom to solid. Back then in the Battle of Tian Mountain, Spectral Soul's main body was huge and majestic. Fang Yuan was very enticed to reach such a level. With a stronger soul foundation, there was a greater benefit. It was the immortal killer move Ghost Official Garment. This move could conceal him from Heaven's will and other Gu immortals' deductions. The deeper his soul foundation, the stronger it became. At this moment, Fang Yuan could feel vividly, the Ghost Official Garment on his soul had thickened. He felt an increased sense of security. As my soul foundation grows, I would be able to control more year beasts. I can even control a second immemorial year beast. However, although I can invest effort into increasing my soul foundation, those soul path killer moves are not worth investing into. There was only one reason: Spectral Soul had been captured by Heavenly Court already. He would definitely get soul searched. That meant that in the future, Heavenly Court would also gain Spectral Soul's true inheritance. By then, it would be easy for them to deduce his killer moves. After this cultivation session, Fang Yuan left Luo Po Valley. Dang Hun Mountain and Luo Po Valley, these were the 2 sacred lands of soul cultivation. They were placed in Langya, blessed land. Firstly, it was easy to use there. Secondly, secluded domains of heaven and earth required a lot of heaven and earth chi. Fang Yuan's immortal aperture already had reverse flow river. The burden of adding these 2 was too huge. Once he left Luo Po Valley, Fang Yuan saw a snowman girl. Snowman Shui'er greets Lord Fang Yuan. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible.